Good morning, and thank you for attending, those who are here and those of you who are out in asynchronous land. Well, I hope you're enjoying a really lovely day out. What we're going to do is, well, she's been with me all day, so she needs to go out a little bit because I had my second shot of the COVID vaccine, so she was with me, and so we should be good to go on that by the weekend. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. What we're going to do in class is really kind of finish up. We'll talk a little about ethics today and wrap things up and do a test next week. So really, we do a test next week and we're about at the end of class. It'll probably be one more essay, but no final exam. You don't need the headaches. Giving you plenty of opportunities to make up points. So that's where we are. So we'll start a little bit with ethics. Let's do a screen share. Just wanted to, speaking of share, those of you who wonder when I talk about Juniper being out in the yard, this is my yard. And these are Juniper's ducks that she goes and chases. And yes, we're on top of Lookout Mountain. We have this nice little place. So in case people wondering where I bring the dog, that's where. Anyway, what we do in ethics is, again, we've gone over most of the major legal things. I may put in freedom of information a little bit on Monday, we'll see. But I'd like to really spend some time talking about ethics. Laws are things that, again, you can't do. These are bad things, libel, obscenity. Ethics are things you can do. But the question is, should you? Here's a typical story, true story. A true story happened to me when I was a newspaper editor. Groundhog Day. Assignment. Find a local. Assignment, find a local groundhog. The issue. Oh, winter was cold. Except one. The one I found was too old to dig a hole. It had almost no hair. So I found a groundhog. It's Groundhog Day. What do you do? Park ranger where I was offered solution. In the closet, you had all sorts of animals stuffed. So what do? Those of you who are here, what would you do? Anyone, if you were in that situation, it's a silly thing. Really happened to me. I'll show you what we did. Boom, boom. This is the actual groundhog. I called him Monty. Why? Because he's mounted. The only non-hibernating groundhog. Tries to ignore his shadow, which is hard, because he's dead. If he sees his shadow again, he will be predicting 6 more weeks of winter. Of course, he wouldn't see his shadow because he's dead. So it's Groundhog Day. We had some fun. You know, at the time, it was fine. Now, this was working at a newspaper where we were all 22 years old and we were all buds and we were silly. 10 years later, working at a much more serious place, such things would be not appreciated. Why? Okay, okay, true. Okay, why is that a problem? Insert slide. Problems. Sets a precedent for other fakes. For example, next year we did Stuffy the Squirrel. Not good. When I missed the winning touchdown as a photographer, I had a picture of the same running back and about the other spot. We'll call it he's running for a touchdown. Stuff like that. So it was probably not the right thing to do. Here's another one. This happened, and I'll just tell the story. This is a football player was arrested for was thrown out of class for being disruptive. He claimed that someone claimed he was looking at their paper in days when we had paper. He and it was written about being one of our star football players, was written up in the student newspaper. He later came in and threw out all the student newspapers all over the school. And that, you know, press run and whatnot costs about $3,000, about $3,000 worth of damage. He came in to the office of the student newspaper advisor and complained about having this incident being written about. Well, he got a little upset and we called the police. And here's the picture of the guy being arrested. The next day, when this picture ran, all hell broke loose. Why? Look what's happening now. Here is a picture. I mean, he really was arrested. But here is a picture of a person of color being arrested and hauled off. You know, would there have been the same picture if the guy was white? Don't know. But the next day when this picture was published, everybody, well, not everybody, the minority community hit the roof saying, look at the stereotype. Here you have a large Black person being hauled off by the cops yet again. Was it ethical or not ethical to run the picture? I, in retrospect, probably think it was a mistake because the newspaper then becomes the issue, not what actually happened. You could have taken part of this picture and just ran a headshot? Did you need a picture at all? And like I said, when we did the history part of this class, we said pictures are emotional. There you go. Welcome to ethics. Was that right or wrong? I don't know. In retrospect, like I said, probably a mistake to run that picture. But did anybody get arrested for, well, not arrested for doing the picture. This guy, don't know whatever happened to him. So ethics depends on a lot of things. Depends on your employer. Some places are fast and loose. Some places are political. You know, I wouldn't say Fox or MSNBC are necessarily unethical because they are doing what they do. You know what you're getting. Depends on your audience. What does the audience expect? Which brings me back to this one. The audience would not expect a fake groundhog. It's really unfair to them. Effects of your actions on others. You see a large Black person, sometimes white people get afraid. And when they get afraid, bad things happen. So that is an effect. Effect of others. Groundhog, nobody got hurt. Effects of your actions on others. Which others? This is a big one in the media. When I did intrusive pictures at crime scenes, dead bodies, fires, all of that, people worry about the effect on the victims. But on the other hand, my job is not to deal with the victim so much as to let the audience know that this is real, this is emotional, and it helps the audience empathize when they see something bad happens. Ethics, it depends on your purpose. What are you doing and why? In straight news, you're doing it to inform people. And sometimes you have to inform them about bad things. Or you're trying to tell a story and help them feel and understand. But you take all that together, ultimately, it's your decision in ethics. The government, the cops aren't going to decide, you decide on your ethics. Recognize your own morals. Difference between ethics and morals. Morals are your guidelines. What do you believe? You know, do you believe you should always tell the truth and never tell a white lie? You know, my father was a tough person. My mother told all sorts of white lies to defend us. I've since realized that doesn't always work. I can be diplomatic without lying. Recognize when you face, so your own, okay, here's another, my former mother-in-law cursed all the time. My mother would never curse. Was one better than the other? Don't know. I would much rather party with Big Mama than my own mom. My mom, Big Mama, was a hoot. My own mother, not so much fun at parties. So again, depends. Ethical decision making, again, depends on your own morals and how you apply your own morals. Morals are what you already have. Ethics are what you do about it. Recognize when you face ethical issues. This is a big one in the media. Most of the time, we don't know what's ethical or not. Okay. Ethical checklist. This is something so you can recognize what you're doing. Is it right or wrong? Is it necessary? You know, Groundhog Day. Was it necessary to do that at all? No. We could have gotten Punxsutawney Phil. Just did the usual national one. All there are alternatives, yeah. Who are you working for? What are the, you have different ethics at MSNBC than you do at Fox. Who is affected? Is anyone hurt? Does the audience know? Does it set a precedent? Like Groundhog Day? And are you becoming the issue? Now, sometimes I can't believe they did that. Sometimes you want it to be about you. So, that's just some things to think about. Okay, we've already done the codes of ethics. The SPJ Code of Ethics we did before, started in Memphis, but here is what we have. Here's some guidelines. Public relations. Oops, PRSA. Public, it's changed. Oh, they have to, anyway. Public relations professionals have ethics. And so does the National Press Photographers Association. Photographers, the paparazzi, have ethics. I helped write this one. Be accurate, resist being manipulated by staged photo opportunities. Number 2, don't do stuff like the Groundhog Day thing. Right there. You look at your code of ethics and say, nope. What's good about these guidelines gives you some good, it gives you some, some good background, helps you decide. Con, there is no enforcement power. There is no ethics court. You could lose a job, but you're not going to jail. So codes of ethics have no enforcement power. Why do some employers refuse to have a code of ethics? Because without it, spring allergies. Why do they have a code of ethics? Or don't have it? Because if you make a mistake, you could say, hey, it's your fault. You should have known better. If you don't have a code of ethics, hey, we don't know. We don't know any better. It's easier to get out of a lawsuit. It depends on you. It depends on the decisions. Let's go in here. Ethical issues in media. We talked about this before. Violence. There's no law against violence. Ratings, etc. are voluntary. Ethical issue. Diversity. There is no law that says you have to treat anybody a given way or have a certain number of people, of different backgrounds in a given employer situation. One reason why diversity helps is had we had more people of color in the newsroom at Arkansas State, we might have made a better decision on the student who was arrested. So diversity, but there's no law against it. Now, there is laws against discrimination, but there is no law that says you have to represent any diversity. That's all voluntary. We talked about obscenity. You can, obscenity, there are some obscenities that are bad, but, some nudity, sexual situations. We do a lot better job holding back actually in the media than a lot of people think. Victims' rights, how they are portrayed in the media. We talked about intrusion, some aspects of privacy. Permission. Do I need to ask permission to take a picture of a person in a public place? No, we all own the view. But should you? The thing is, the problem why we don't ask permission, because if you do, people will just pose. They'll go, they'll pose and it'll look stupid. You want to get real life. So there, there's that. Truth. No law says media has to be true. You just can't damage reputations or defraud people. Bias. We talk about that so much in the media. It's ethics. There is no law that says, and the First Amendment doesn't say, you have to be unbiased. We are all biased. Every decision I make when I make a presentation like this, it's subjective. There are some things that I stress in class and some things I don't. There are some people that somebody else will do differently. It's all true, but we all have our biases. So plagiarism. I mean, you can't violate copyright law, but you could copy somebody's information without violating copyright. It's not ethical, but you're not going to go to jail for copying somebody's paper. Now, school is a privilege, not a right. So we don't owe you a grade for plagiarizing. You can be thrown out of school. Your rights are not being violated for plagiarism, but you're not going to go to jail for it. So these are, these are some of the bigger ethical issues we face all the time. The issue here is, in ethics, these are your decisions. So, my recommendation is going down a checklist. Is it necessary? Are there other things to do? What's ethical for one publication or outlet may not be for another. Who is affected and how? These are questions. First thing you do is know that you are having an ethical issue. Some issues of taste. You just don't know better. You may when I was a newspaper editor, we put in some pictures that people interpreted as being sexual, and I just, being a nice Catholic boy, I just didn't see it that way. So, sometimes in ethics, you don't know you're being unethical, like on Groundhog Day. Did we think we're doing anything wrong? No. Later on, as I got to be old and cranky, I realized it probably was the wrong thing. So, ethics change over time. And that's another thing. When I was a kid, you never saw images of gay people in the media. Everybody, you know, it's just not something you talked about. Now they're pretty open about it. And I think that's an improvement. Yeah, but there are, you know, things are different. So what do you do? Yeah, certainly, you know, like now the governor of New York is in trouble for being sexual with employees. When I first started out, bosses were horrible all the time and nobody ever got in trouble. So again, a lot of things change. But ultimately, it's your decision. Depends on your decisions, and you face the consequences. Maybe not jail, but ultimately you got to live with yourself. That's the real thing with ethics. All right. So I think that largely covers it. I will, you know, go over this and other things. Next Monday, we'll do a test review, and then we'll do a test next week. And then we'll wrap up the course. All right. I appreciate it. Any questions for those who are here? If you're not, enjoy the day.